Hello and welcome to Two Wheels Extra. The 70s, it seems, are alive and well. We can see their influence in bikes designed only recently and in current day motorcycle clothing. But it seems the actual bikes from the 70s are alive and well too, and that's the theme for this week's show. I'm going to be looking at real 70s bikes, including these two beauties. Fran will check out scoots that will have mods green with envy. I meet a guy for whom bikes from the 70s are the only bikes to have and to ride, and we'll have a guide to buying your own 70s bike and then owning and using it. So Ben, if we rummage around in your toy box here, why does it contain primarily 70s bikes? What is it about bikes from the 70s?
It's just the attraction of a great era of hand-built motorcycles, and also some of the men that rode them in those days, to my mind, they were heroes because they rode what essentially were on very dangerous tracks, old machines. You only have to look at the tyres on these, look at the brakes. This is a production bike. It was pretty crude in those days. You can't compare men from different eras.
It was heroic, wasn't it? Your bikes, I mean, these are pretty special. Talk us through this one first of all.
It's an MV Augusta 750S. The engine basically came out of the MV racing shop. Road going bike, announced in 1969, just under 750 cc's. Straight 4 engine. They didn't build very many. It was quite advanced in certain respects. It had a shaft drive system down there.
I can't believe the size of the final drive at the end of this shaft on the end of the wheel. The unsprung weight there must be just massive.
Trademark, of course, was the classic MV megaphone exhaust on both sides. Even today on the new MV, they've still got the 4 pipes coming out.
What I love about it is, one, the sort of race crudeness of all the fixtures and fittings on here. You can see where they've been hand milled and constructed. And just the engine, it looks like a race engine. It is not designed to look pretty, is it?
It's not, and it's got one sort of very obvious feature. The starter motor it is attached literally at the back of it and drives through rubber belts. It was never designed to have a starter motor. No. So with a typical Italian ingenuity, they just bolted it on the back.
Now you don't go romping around on this in the rain, do you?
No, not unless I can't avoid it.
No, can you imagine? Obviously, rather primitive drum brakes up front as well. It was then updated or replaced by this.
This was the replacement. Basically, they announced the 750S America, and the America quite simply came because MV had been pushed by one of their American importers, a company who already dealt with the helicopter operations, to produce an updated motorbike for the customers. And in response to that, they produced essentially this bike. This is a slight little hybrid. It's got a slightly larger engine. They then went on to produce the 850 Arturo Magni developed engines. Very, very special bike, very rare.
Now, what do you say to those who look at this and think, it's an old tractor, isn't it? I don't like it. I'd rather have an R6. There's actually something about it that stirs your soul.
Absolutely. I mean, not the least, just being the noise. They are a legendary sound, and I don't think anybody could dispute that. To my mind, modern bikes are just so quick, so fast. They're not the fastest things, but they're great fun to ride.
Well, they're stunning things, and thank you for letting us have a look at them. Do you actually have a modern bike at all?
I have an Aprilia Moto, which is a sort of 70s-looking modern motor.
Just say you are a completely 70s man out there on your bike. You're not going to convert.
Very, very sad man, but I enjoy it.
Cheers, Ben.
Come on, Richard, it's authentic.
No, it's embarrassing.
If you're going to ride a 70s bike, you've got to look the part.
I look a part. I don't know about the part.
Some of those flies are over 25 years old.
Well, look, I'll wear the kit, but I'm not wearing this. You might as well stick a waste paper basket on your head. I'm going to get my proper lid. Thank you, Ben.
Okay. Both bikes are slightly different. The older 750S, of course, makes things even more difficult by having the brake on the left-hand side and and the gear lever on the right, and it's also reversed, so it's up, then down. This bike is conventional brake on the right, gear stick on the left. In terms of ride experience, the first thing you'll notice is the steering is slightly heavier. The geometry was not as sophisticated in those days. And the next thing you notice immediately is the brakes are just nothing like modern brakes. You feel like you've got to have a spare anchor on the back of the bike to slow you down for the corner. But once you get used to them, you really feel quite comfortable. It's just on a modern bike where you see everybody talks about it's doing stoppies and the ability to flick the rear end up. You don't do that on these bikes. You can't do it. I love the noise more than anything else. The handling, as I explained, is nothing special. You're not going to go around the outside of an R6, but you just enjoy the ride. You think about what perhaps your race riders, the Agostinis, the Reeds, were thinking about when they were racing the actual Works 500s. It gives you an insight into what kind of men they were.
Just the fact that the bike was so precious, only 50 of these were made in the first place, made it quite an honour to have a ride of the thing. And the reality didn't disappoint either. It felt fantastic. For a start, the bike felt so tight it could have come straight out of the crate. This has not been restored. It still has that genuine patina of age, and you can see it around the slightly faded paint here and there and bits of wear and tear. The bike may look pretty radical by today's standards, certainly for the riding position, but actually it isn't. It's surprisingly comfortable. Once you've got over the rather disconcerting sensation of changing gear with your right foot and going down rather than up, it's a doddle. The engine's overriding characteristic, apart from the torque, which is great, is the sound, which is wonderful.
So while Richard's looking at bikes from the 70s, I've come to look at something else that was pretty big at that time, scooters. And I've come to Wigan to check out one of the largest collections in the country. So Eric, you've got a pretty large and impressive collection of Vespas and Lambrettas. Now everybody's heard of them obviously, but where do they originate from?
Lambretta and Vespa actually originated from Italy. Basically, Vespa, which is Piaggio, during World War II made an engine what used to kickstart the actual motor engine of the aeroplane.
Oh, right.
So it could go and do its business. While on the other hand, Lambretta was like a steel factory, what used to make tubular steel. And they were known for the universal joint. Only for them we wouldn't have it, the universal joint, as well as the modern day scaffolding.
Good grief, you'd never think that.
No,
think that's about those. So are they completely different then as bikes?
A lot of people what won't know would say a scooter's a scooter, but to the people what do know, Lambrettas are much different to a Vespa. As in, like a Lambretta, everything's bolt on.
Yeah.
Where a Vespa is like say the aeroplane, it's all one body.
Right.
You know.
Or one chassis going underneath. Yeah.
Where a Lambretta is just like a tubular bar.
Yeah.
With everything 50% on each side, balanced all the way up the middle.
Bolted on. So Eric, I actually heard a rumour that the Lambretta was once classed as a motorbike. Is there any truth in that?
There is. A lot of people won't like me saying it, but Lambretta was actually classed as a motorbike because it had a chain driven back wheel, which a motorbike has.
Yeah.
And also, a thing what a lot of people don't know is Lambretta were the first production motorbike to have a disc brake added to it.
Right.
So before your Kawasaki's and all that, you've got Lambretta to thank for your disc brake.
You're going to be right. There's not many people going to be happy with that fact. Yeah. So now everybody associates scooters with mods, but I mean, they were born in the 40s, so what were they doing before mods?
Well, like I said, they were during the war, and Italy got a bit flattened, didn't it, with this bombing it. So basically the country had to get back up going, so Lambretta and Vespa were born, and it got the country back on its feet again. The mods revitalised the actual scooter, you know, Lambretta and Vespa, and made it like a custom thing, what you could put anything on and make it your own identity, and basically fetched into the forefront of two wheels. Everybody wanted one.
And of course quadrophenia as well. I mean, it brought it all into the 70s and everything.
Yeah, you got doctors, lawyers, everybody, even policemen having them. You know, it was the thing to have in that era. So
now, are they still making Lambrettas and Vespas?
No, the Lambrettas stopped basically in 1976. Now Vespa carried on. They, you know, the money's on them.
To present day.
Yeah, they've gone, and you know the things what they've done with them. They've made hydraulic discs. They've put electric starts on, oil injection. You know, they've done the work. They've even done a fuel injection.
So they can keep up with any modern day.
Yeah, you've got this two-wheel bike which basically was made in 1946, 47, and up to present date they're carrying on, still making them, and they're doing well over 80, 90 mile an hour.
Fantastic, and of course they brought the classic look.
Yes,
with
they
them
still
too.
got them. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I know all my history, so I'm going to go and have a look round if that's all right with you.
No problem.
Fantastic. Thanks, Eric.
All right.
Now, Eric's asked me to get these letters posted, but I don't know where the postman is. I mean, I've been waiting for him for ages now. Oh, here he is. He's on a Lambretta. So, Graham, this is a bit unusual. You are a postie.
Yes.
And you use this for your deliveries or not?
No, Francesca.
You don't, right. So, well, what is it?
Well, it's a Lambretta GP 125. As you can see, it's not the standard one. It's had a few modifications. And
Yeah. And
extras
how
on.
old is this one?
It's built in 1979.
Oh, right. Oh, fantastic. So it is a proper 70s one. And
Yeah.
you've customised it all yourself then?
Yeah, I bought everything what you can see.
So what have you done to it? What's not standard?
Oh well, the front carrier, rear carrier, mirrors, extra lights.
Are these nice
floorboards.
little wing things here? Are they
Oh,
standard?
they're
or-
extras, yeah.
They're
all
extras.
Every chrome bit's extra.
Wow. So what is it about 70s Lambrettas that attracted you?
Well, I had one in the 70s previous, like, and my last Lambretta was a 1970, well, a Lambretta GP 125.
Fantastic. Well, that's amazing. I mean, it looks wonderful, and you look very snazzy coming down the road. But can you go and do me those, please?
No problem, Francesca.
Thank you very much. Nice talking to you. See ya. Now that's what I call express delivery.
Not everybody wants a full-on plastic-shrouded modern sports bike. That retro thing, it seems, just won't go away. Bikes like Kawasaki's Zephyr have been and gone again, so maybe we'll have retros one day. But the whole thing is here to stay by the looks of it, that naked, wind-in-your-teeth sports bike feel. But they're not cheap if you want a new one. And if you want a taste of real authenticity for about £2.5 grand, you can buy the real thing. Come with me. And if we go back to the 70s,
Right.
we wouldn't have acres and acres of bikes like this with loads of them different, because they're not all the same in here.
No.
Back in the 70s, there weren't as many bikes.
There wasn't as many big bikes as there is now. I think the moped market was the real big market of the late 70s with FS1Es, Honda SS50s, Gileras, etc. Whereas the people, a lot of lads of 18 and 19 who used to have the smaller mopeds up to RD200s, RD250s, remember them? Even CB400s like the one behind us here.
We're looking at these from the point of view of something that's only going to do 1,500 miles a year.
That's right, yeah.
So a couple of grand, £2.5 grand, £3 grand maybe, you're going to get something quite special. From that choice, from the 70s when there weren't as many bikes, what are the ones that are still around? What are we still seeing? The survivors?
I think we're still seeing a lot of British bikes still. People tend to hang on to those because they know they're an appreciating asset. They're very aesthetically pleasing to the eye. People just love the old British classics. Japanese-wise, they seem to swap hands a little bit more often. But the bikes that are still around in this day and age are things like your GT750, as we got there, your CB400, your Z1000s. They're all very, very popular.
The whole retro bike thing doesn't seem to be going away. Do you think there's going to be a fashion revival for the genuine article?
I think basically we've seen a revival for the new retro bike in the ZRX 1100 Kawasaki, the Phaser to a certain extent. Yamaha are bringing out this year a 1000 Phaser. And we're seeing a lot of people coming off sport bikes onto big retros, purely because the amount of speed cameras that's going up, the cost of insurance is rising. They don't want to give up motorcycling, they enjoy motorcycling. And I think off the back of that, yes, we're sooner or later going to see people wanting and getting interested in the thing that started it all, the proper old retro.
Do you know, it feels a bit weird standing gawping at this whole thing without being in a leaky garage with a cup of strong tea in one hand and a fag in the other, and all my mates around me trying to work out how we can work out to save up for a tax disc between us. Still, glory days of old, but there is a chance now to relive those glory days of old because they've kindly said we're going to have a blast, not on the kettle, but on this Suzuki GS 850. We're going to brave the elements and have a blast from the past. I just need to get kitted up. Light and delicate is not the way to describe the controls. It may be Japanese, but it feels, compared to today's Japanese bikes, well, I hate to say it, but positively British. It's clunky, chunky, rough and ready. Think of it as a two-wheeled tractor. Now, maybe that's a little harsh. It probably weighs as much. It wasn't a dry day, and these bikes were never particularly good handling-wise, even if it were dry. Ultimately though, owning a bike like this is never going to be about out-and-out performance. It's about the whole feel and, above all, the style. Back to the 70s. Swagger a bit. Right, I'm off for a pint.
In the show, we were talking to Eric, who was showing us his fine collection of vintage scooters. Now he's let 4 out of his sight for me to have a play on. So we start with a Vespa GL. This is a 1957 model, very popular in the 50s, 60s and 70s, and it's a classic design which is still being used to this day. The Vespa GL is your run-of-the-mill scooter. The 125 engine is self-sufficient. There's no battery but a magneto, which acts as an alternator. It's just kick start and go. This is the widest scooter you'll come across, and with the engine set to one side, it can make handling a bit tricky at first. You also have to keep a watch out for the gears, as it's quite easy to miss a gear during changes. Once you've got that sorted, you can sit back and cruise all you like. But you have to remember though that this is not a cheap bike. Back in the 1950s, you would have paid around £100. It's worth £3 now. Second in line is the Vespa SS90, first introduced in the early 60s. Now, I've got to be a bit careful with this because it's a bit rare, and I'm also told it's a bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing. They actually call this the SS90 Racer, thanks to its tuned engine which will power this thing to an amazing 90 miles per hour. The sports riding position is enhanced due to a dummy tank, and the lightweight construction and slim styling helps for great handling, and of course acceleration and speed. The SS90 would have cost you £200 back in the 60s and will now fetch £3,500. You have to remember though, for its size, this thing is fast. And third in line, and we've changed manufacturers, this is the Lambretta SX200, first introduced in the 60s and commonly known in the scooter world as the sex appeal. This is a follow-up to the TV200. The SX has a more balanced engine and also features dual shock absorbers and double engine mountings to reduce vibration. It was introduced in 1966 and instantly inherited its nickname of sex appeal, which was due to its slim, smooth, classic lines, and of course the rider. Costing £150 or thereabouts back in the 60s, this again, like the others, would have been a shrewd buy, as it's now worth between £3,000 to £4,000. And last but by no means least, the Lambretta GP200. Now this was manufactured in the early 70s and this was the last of the Lambretta designs. Now this one is a bit special because this is the 10th one ever made. With the largest scooter engine out at the time, the GP200 needed bigger brakes. Lambretta therefore introduced a disc brake as well as dual shock absorbers and a beefed up front suspension. Shorter in height than the average Lambretta, the GP benefits from a more streamlined look and feel, and with the throaty sound from the 200cc engine, it lives up to its Grand Prix name. In the mid-70s, this would have cost you £250, but this would certainly have been a wise investment, as today's market would fetch up to £4,000.
So there we have it, 4 fine examples of vintage scooters. Now there's just one problem. I can't ride them all at once. So I've always wanted to be in a gang. Guys, let's do a bit of hell raising.
Now I know it's not quite quadrophenia, but I think my gang looks quite cool. Bring back the 70s, that's what I say.